start getting to the questions. Jim, go ahead.
Okay, the first question, which has absolutely nothing to do with Medicare, says, I heard that after the elections a new tax, 1%, will be on all of our bank transactions. Is that so?
There are lots and lots of taxes that are going to go up on December 31st, January 1st, effective January 31st, if we don't stop the administration from letting the 2001-2003 tax cuts expire. In fact, if those tax cuts don't expire, we're looking, now we've already got an economy where we got an 8.3% unemployment rate. It's going to get a lot worse if those tax cuts expire. Because who are they going to hurt worse? They're going to hurt the job creators who are going to put the money that they've got aside to grow and expand their businesses. They're going to have to use that money to pay those additional taxes. They're not going to be able to hire more people. And we're going to see upwards, some experts say upwards of 700,000 jobs as a result of the president's tax plan to tax those job creators making more than $250,000 a year. It's not a good deal for America. So there are a lot of taxes. I have co-sponsored a bill called the Eliminate the Federal Tax Code. For so many years, Washington has picked the winners and the losers through manipulating the tax code. We helped this group over here. We hurt this group over here. At the turn of the century, our tax code was about 300 pages long. Take a guess at how long America's tax code is today. How much? 65,000. 65,000 pages long. You got to have a PhD to understand it. It cost our economy somewhere on the order of $6 billion a year just to file our taxes. That's not to pay our taxes, that's to file our taxes. It's a big number. Jim?
Okay. Would a good definition of sequestration be the end of the road Congress keeps kicking the deficit can down?
Read that again.
Would a good definition of sequestration be the end of the road Congress keeps kicking the deficit can down?
Sequestration is not a good thing. Let me tell you why. No one ever anticipated that super committee would not be able to do what the American people charged it to do. To find a way to cut America's deficit without seeing the Department of Defense take another $500 billion in cuts. Now keep in mind that the Defense Department has already taken $500 billion in cuts. If this sequestration goes through, we will look at the smallest Navy that we've had since before World War I. We will be looking at the smallest Air Force we've had since the Air Force became a service. National security is the federal government's number one priority. That's the number one job that the Constitution charges them with. For the last 30, 40 years, we've been able to protect America by fighting two simultaneous conflicts in different places around the world. We are going into an era where we will only be able to fight one conflict at a time. Now, you guys are playing bingo. Somebody wants to win, right? That's the nature of competition. Our adversaries want to bring America down. Is there anybody in this room that thinks that once our adversaries find out that we can only fight one front at a time, that they're not going to open up a second front and a third front and others to keep us from being able to provide for our own national security? That's where we're heading. Sequestration is not a good thing for America, and we're going to continue fighting to make sure that that does not happen.
Okay. The next one. This thing died. Well, I'll speak loud.
I'll read the question
Okay.
for you, Jim.
Congressman Johnson, will you please tell me what is happening to all the VA benefits?
We've got some real serious problems with the VA. There is one group in our society that I believe is entitled to anything. You hear that word entitlement a lot. Well, number one, I'm offended by the word entitlement when it's applied to Social Security and Medicare. I don't see those as entitlement programs. I know some people do, but I don't. Because you folks invested in those programs. You paid into those programs. It's Washington's responsibility now to honor that commitment that they made to you when you paid into that program. But when we talk about someone being entitled to something, there's one group that I believe everybody in this country feel are entitled to anything, and that's our men and women in uniform who lay their lives on the line day in and day out to ensure that we retain the freedoms and liberties that America is founded on. That's what's important. And we've got some big problems, and VA benefits are a big issue. We've got some 900,000 case backlog right now in claims within the VA. We've got small businesses that are not getting a fair shake from the VA in terms of doing business with the VA. Service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. We've got veterans that are taking advantage of by the VA's fiduciary program because, the VA can find a veteran incompetent to manage their own finances and appoint someone to manage those finances. And we're finding out that the VA oftentimes will do that without the veteran even knowing about it. They don't find out about it until they go to access their money, and they find out that they can't. We've heard of some horror stories. We got a lot of work to do to make the VA stand up to provide the care and the benefits that our veterans have earned. It's not something we're giving them. It's something that our veterans have earned. And it's one of those areas where we as America, we have to stand up to that commitment as well, because they put it on the line for us. Many of those young men and women are coming back with legs and arms missing. Their lives will never be the same. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, traumatic brain injuries. We're fighting an adversary who knows no bounds to make life miserable for our troops overseas and to inflict as much damage as they can. We owe it to our veterans to take care of them, and we're going to continue to fight for that. I'm really proud of the work that we've accomplished on the Veterans Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. That has been some really rewarding work. We got a lot of work left to do, but it's been rewarding. Jim?
Okay, this is a good one. What are the top 2 or 3 issues dealing with seniors, and how do you address them?
The top 1 or 2?
2 or 3, 3 or 4.
1 or 2 or 3. Okay.
I
I think healthcare is one of the biggest issues, right? And I've sort of addressed that in terms of my position on Medicare and making sure that your healthcare decisions remain between you and your doctor, not being decided by a 15-member panel of unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. How many of you want some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. making your health care decisions for you? Well, I sure don't. You know, the president and his allies like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid jammed through the health care law. Several weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that the law would stand as the law of the land. Do you know why they did that? Now, many people thought that they were going to say that because of the individual mandate, this idea of forcing the American people to buy health insurance at the federal level, first time in American history that we're aware of that the federal government has required the American people to enter into a contract against their will if they didn't want to. But this health care law allows them to do that. Now, what the Supreme Court found, that under the Commerce Clause of the Constitution, the individual mandate was indeed unconstitutional. But the penalty associated with the individual mandate and the way that that penalty was